Hello, this is Monica Sawyer. Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Women, where we focus on all aspects of real estate investing, including strategies, mindset, emotional mastery, money smarts, and so much more to ensure your success. If you'd like to learn my personal favorite investing strategy, just go to blissfulinvestor.com. You can also listen to this episode on the Real Estate Investing for Women podcast on iTunes. Now, let's welcome our guest. Today, I am so excited to welcome back to the show, Kathy Fettke. For those of you who don't remember Kathy, let me tell you a little bit about her again. Kathy is the co-CEO of Real Wealth Network, the best-selling author of Retire Rich with Rentals, and host of the Real Estate Wealth Show and Real Estate News for Investors podcasts. She is an active real estate investor, licensed real estate agent, and former mortgage broker, specializing in helping people build multi-million-dollar real estate portfolios that generate passive monthly cash flow for life. With a passion for researching real estate market cycles, Kathy is a frequent guest expert on CNN, CNBC, Fox, Bloomberg, NPR, CBS, MarketWatch, and the Wall Street Journal. Oh my gosh. She was also named among the top 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs by Goldman Sachs 2 years in a row. Hello, Kathy. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I just love our conversations, Kathy.
Likewise. Always fun.
Yeah. So, Kathy, in the past on the show, you've talked a little bit more about market research and what the market's going to be doing. Today, I just really want to focus on your turnkey business. So could you tell us a little bit about sort of how you got started with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was back in 2004 when I was a mortgage broker, and I really learned about the business through mortgage brokering. And many of the clients that I worked with were buying properties all over the country. And I started to investigate that and find out why. And it was simply because there was this word cash flow that a lot of Californians don't know, don't understand, don't know what that is.
It's impossible here.
It's impossible, or it's cash flow, but it's of the negative variety. So that's what, people understood. If you buy a property in California, you might break even, you might be negative cash flow, but it will appreciate so much that it sort of offsets it and makes it worth it. But just the down payment alone is really, really difficult for people to come up with to buy very, very expensive California property. And I learned long ago that if I wanted this thing called cash flow, which is more of a sure thing than appreciation, that it wasn't probably going to be in California. And therefore, we'd have to get really good at figuring out how to buy rental properties where I can't go drive by them or fix them myself if needed or manage it myself in any way. So that journey started in 2005. Also, I had Robert Kiyosaki on the Real Wealth Show, which is my podcast, and I was doing it way back then. And he said, just from a pure timing perspective, that back in 2005, in 2004, real estate prices had doubled, if not tripled in some areas, but prices went up so much in 2004 that Kiyosaki came on the show in 2005 and he said, well, I made all this money, I'm going to sell now while everybody else is buying because they think these prices are going to continue to go up. So what a lot of people don't realize is that when values go up, maybe that's the time to cash in and go take that money and buy cash flow.
Yes.
So that's what I learned from him. So I jumped on an airplane, went to Dallas because he said that's where he's buying, and he gave lots of really good reasons: the job growth, the population growth, and the affordability there, and the infrastructure growth. So I came back with 5 properties with what would have been a down payment on properties in California. I came back with 5 properties that cash flowed. And so that's what started it. And I talked about that on the Real Wealth Show, and people said, wow, I want to do the same thing. How do I do it? And I said, well, here's the real estate agent I used. Here's the property manager I used. Here's the lender that I used, which at the time was me. And then, here's the whole team here. Here's this sort of turnkey process for you. And that was before turnkey property was a thing, but it was like, basically, it's packaged for you to make it easier for you. These are people I've worked with. I've had great success with them. here you go. And that turned into a business where today we still do that. We find teams that can acquire the properties or build them if they're brand new, get them, screen a tenant and manage that tenant ongoing so that people from out of state can basically have it done for them by somebody local.
I love that. I love that. And so you have different teams in different areas. So you're not actually managing them anymore. Do you invest with each of the different teams that you investigate, or that are managing properties for you, or how does that work?
We invest in a lot of them, and
Mhm.
Rich and I get kind of busy.
Yeah.
So I'm embarrassed to say that so many times we just haven't had the time to kind of build our own portfolio the way that we want to, because sometimes we'll get like 10 really amazing properties in Florida and we do a webinar on it and they're sold out. And it's like, I look at Rich and go, shoot, we didn't get one.
No.
Darn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we certainly, we have properties in Florida and Ohio and Pennsylvania, California too. But California is not cash flow. Although I do have one Airbnb, as you know, and that has been cash flowing. So if you're going to own property in California and you want cash flow, that is one way to do it. But it is more time intensive for sure.
Yeah, that's a little bit more like a job. I mean, it's
Yeah,
still
it's a
pretty,
job. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Lately, so I want to talk all about, I know that you've got your checklist and all of this stuff for turnkey properties, but I want to talk a little bit about the new construction. I've been seeing, going through my email, that I'm getting all these webinars about new construction that you guys are working on. Could you talk a little bit about that and why that's so exciting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I started investing out of state, we were the only thing we could do because there was so much limited inventory at the time. 2005 was everyone was buying real estate, as you may recall. So it was difficult to get to buy anything. There were multiple offers, everybody competing. So I worked out back then in 2005, I met with builders and said, can you save 10% of your inventory for our network at Real Wealth? And you don't have to worry about that. It'll be for rental, just 10% of your development. And that's really how we got into it. And investors love new homes because they come with warranties. They're brand new. Tenants love them, especially today in COVID. They're clean. They've got yards. People are moving out of apartments and condos in big cities and realizing, oh my gosh, we've got all this space. We really need it since we're now teaching at home and working at home and cooking at home and entertaining at home. I mean, the home is now the central focus of our lives these days. So people are really wanting to either rent or and particularly live in a new home. They love that in this environment. The thing that's amazing is the cash flow is not that different because prices have gone up so much and there's so much limited inventory in general. And I can talk about why that is and why we're in a V recovery in real estate. It makes no sense. I was at my Pilates class today and the Pilates instructor is like, I don't understand how people can be out of work and yet the housing market is taking off. There's a really good reason for that. It's lack of inventory. But because the builders have not been building over the last 10 years, existing home prices have gone up, but we've been able to work with builders they're willing to take a smaller margin to be able to sell in bulk to investors. So you can almost get the same return from a new home than an existing one in this moment. That's not always the case. It was definitely not the case 5 years ago. It was better to get an existing home, buy it in foreclosure, fix it up, get amazing returns. But that's really difficult to do today because there's like bidding wars on properties. So once again, we're doing what we did 15 years ago, which is going to the builders and saying, will you please reserve a percentage of your inventory for us? Sometimes builders are done with a project and they just want to get out. It's expensive for them to hold shop at the development. And that last 10%, they just don't want to deal with. They'd rather pick up and move the staff to their next project. So, we come in and say, hey, we'll help you out. We'll pick it up. And then we get to be in these beautiful residential neighborhoods and own, the tiny percentage of rental properties there. And it's great for the investor. It's great for the tenant.
I love that. And so what markets are you doing that in?
We're working with builders in Florida. Now, not right now. I mean, this has been projected before COVID that people are looking for a more affordable lifestyle. They would love to be near beaches and in a place that feels like vacation, but if you're retiring, you want to retire in a nice place, but that's affordable. Well, where are you going to do that? Shockingly, you can do that in Florida still. You can, and if you don't want to be anywhere near the hurricanes, well, then you just go inland a little bit. Just don't buy anything on the water. You can go visit the beach, but maybe don't live on the beach because you're gonna have higher property taxes, and then you're gonna have to deal with, boarding up your house every time there's a hurricane. But if you buy inland or own property inland, then you're not in flood zones, and it's just like a bad storm, which you have everywhere. So that area between Tampa and Orlando is the fastest growing part of the country. It has been for the past few years. That has dramatically accelerated over the last 6 months because of COVID, as more and more people from New York City and bigger cities on the East Coast are finally making their dream come true of retiring in Florida because they can work from home. They're maybe not retiring, but they get to sort of go there early. We're just seeing a mass exodus out of the high tax states of New Jersey and New York, moving to a place where it's more comfortable with this new normal.
Mm-hmm.
And also we know that there's Republican, I may say that more. There are certain states that are more landlord friendly and are more business friendly. That's just a fact. And Florida is one of those states. There's no state income tax. They didn't really shut down during COVID, a little bit, but they opened up pretty quickly. So people who are sort of looking to get back to normal, they can do that more in Florida than say in New York or New Jersey or California for that matter. So you're seeing what was already in motion is massive, massive demographic shift to the Southeast. And yet home prices are very affordable. Because these markets were sort of off the radar, big builders were building in places like San Francisco and in New York because they could make so much money on those high-end condos in Chicago and so forth. So there's still a lack of inventory with all this in-migration to Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas, that home prices are still within the $200,000 range. But we think with the material costs going up, that's really going to, we're going to see prices go up over time.
Got it.
Yeah.
So do you guys actually buy the properties, or do you just reserve them for your investors? Do you buy them and then you sell them?
No, we're just simply a broker. We are with EXP, which allows us to be a national brokerage, and we have agents all across the country, and they find us properties, and we work with the builders. I have relationships with a lot of builders, so they do reserve that inventory for us that normally they don't like selling to investors. These builders don't want investor neighborhoods, but they're willing to have 10 to 20% of their neighborhoods be rental properties, but they don't want just somebody coming in and saying, I want to buy a property and make it a rental. But they know that we have worked very closely with the property managers, that we have really high standards for screening tenants, and that we have one company that will be managing those, and it's very, very professional and high end. And so they're more willing to do it.
Got it. And so you have one management company that basically any investor that buys in, they get that management company, right? So that's all completely handled.
Yeah. I mean, you're not required by you're not required to use that management company, but we do have some influence. It's not our company. It's one that we found. We interviewed them. We have a list of 20 questions that we actually share with investors. You can download that from our website at RealWealth, the Property Management Investor Questionnaire, because we want to know, how many properties are you managing? How long have you been in business? How many people on staff do you have per property? How many evictions do you have? If it's too many, you're not screening well. If it's none, it's like, well, that's, I don't believe you. So, and how long does it take to evict? And, what's your process? I mean, these are things that we want to know. We want to see that there's great reviews, that there's happy tenants, that those tenants are being cared for. So we have a pretty deep vetting process for finding the property management. But even beyond that, if we have, say, a few hundred investors that are using that property management company to manage properties, and one of those landlords has an issue that they're dealing with, and they're not getting a response from the property manager. If I call from Real Wealth and say, hey, one of our members is kind of having these issues, and that property manager doesn't take care of it. Well, they don't want us to pull everyone and find a new property management company. So we have a little bit more leverage. They want to keep us happy. They want to keep us bragging about how great they are. That's the whole beauty of referral-based businesses, is just like Yelp, like, businesses in Yelp will kind of go beyond what they might have done in the past because they want great reviews. And that's what these property managers want us to do, is review them, tell our members that they're great, and then they better be great. If they're not on the list anymore, right?
Right, of course. One of the things you just mentioned is that you've got a really high standard for the property management companies. I know that you also have a really high standard for the properties that you get. So you've got these construction properties that are all brand new, right? But you've also got a checklist of everything that those properties have to have if you're buying an older property or remodel property or something else for your clients too, right? So is that true?
Yeah, we have a checklist. It's called our Real Income Property Standards. There's this thing called turnkey rental property businesses that popped up. Real Wealth, we were one of the first to, like I said, to discover that and realize, wow, there's investors who really want to buy out of state, but they don't know how. They don't know who to trust. They want a referral from someone who has a track record. And that just really didn't really exist back then. So we created the systems to make that happen. But then this idea of turnkey popped up, and just about anybody could say they had a turnkey business, but nobody defined what that meant. So, you might work with one turnkey provider in Ohio who's just mind-blowingly awesome, and then that's your idea of what turnkey means. And then you go to maybe a team in Columbus and you're super disappointed because they didn't do the same thing. I mean, that's what we discovered when we were looking for these teams that could help us out. They all had different standards of what they considered turnkey. This one guy, I went and looked at his properties, and I literally said to him, okay, so you got this from foreclosure. There's foreclosures have a distinct look and feel and smell, right? Many times they've been sitting for a long time. They can be vagrants that have lived there. I mean, they need a lot of cleanup. So I kind of looked around this property and said, okay, great. So what'd you pay for this? And there was Turnkey was in the name of his company name. That's how I even found him. And I said, when are you going to do the renovation? And he goes, what do you mean? We already did. And I'm looking around, and this just looks like it came right from the bank. I mean, things were broken. There were just, curtains hanging lopsided, and it was awful. And I said, you can't be serious that you renovated. What did you do? And he's like, oh, we put in a new carpet or something like that. And I'm like, well, this would definitely not meet our standards. And he goes, oh, well, that's okay. I have a waiting list of people from out of state who will buy it. I thought, if they only knew, they probably have no idea what they're buying. They just saw turnkey. They have an idea of what that means, and they never bothered to check, maybe never got appraisals or inspections or anything like that. So that's when we thought, okay, we need to define what turnkey means to us. So we called it real, like Real Wealth, real turnkey standards. And we have a certain amount of life left that we expect to see on roofs and on HVAC systems, all those big ticket items that cost you so much money and just blow all the cash flow that you ever earned on that property. It could be gone with one problem, one repair that you need on that big ticket stuff. And so we want to make sure that there's enough life left that, at least if the inspector says it looks like there's 10 years left on the roof or so forth. So those turnkey standards are also on our website at Real Wealth. And we tell people, if there's anyone on our referral list that you want to work with, download those standards and give it to the inspector that you hire. Always get an inspection. Always get an inspection if you're buying a property, whether it's turnkey or not, whether it's next door or not. Like, unless you are an inspector yourself, it's worth it. So, get the inspection and give them the turnkey standards and say, I just want to make sure that they've renovated this to these standards. And if they haven't, then that team doesn't get to be on our referral list any longer, or they need to fix it and bring it up to the level that we expect. So again, that's another reason to get an inspection, is you can often get work done, that maybe you would have had to pay for later, but the seller pays for it.
Got it. So do you help people to get that inspection, like arrange all that and do all of those things?
We have a list of inspectors that we recommend. We're legally not supposed to do that. We're legally allowed to give a list of 3 inspectors that
Mhm.
have been recommended by our members, but we don't make the phone call.
Got it. And how about financing? With these turnkey properties, what I found is that a lot of times you can do it just like any other house, right? You put some money down, you get a loan, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, what people are shocked about, what I think is amazing, and I try to tell as many people as I can who feel really discouraged that they'll never ever get into real estate because they live in California or they live in a high priced market, and they just think, how am I ever going to come up with that $100,000, $200,000 down payment? Or qualify for that massive loan,
Mm-hmm.
what they don't realize is these loans are, it's like a car payment. Honestly, if you're buying $100,000 house, your mortgage is $80,000 and your payment's $400. It's $400 a month. People are shocked that they can qualify. Sometimes with pretty low entry level jobs, low paying entry level jobs, they can still qualify for these investment properties because, like I said, it's almost cheaper than getting a car. Because it's, amortized for 30 years, whereas a car is amortized for 4 or 5 or 6, whatever they're doing these days. So the payments are really low. And that means that, like my daughter, she was just 2 years out of college working pretty entry level job, and she was able to qualify. And she saved her
Oh,
money.
yay.
She did not buy a car. She did not buy expensive fancy drinks at Starbucks. She saved her money and she was able to do it on a pretty low salary because, again, almost anyone can qualify. They're just really looking for high credit.
Right. Got
And you
it.
can get up to 10 loans. You can get up to 10 investor loans with Fannie or Freddie. They're conventional with these unbelievably low rates today in the 4% arena if you have good credit. And then you need 20% down. So again, if it's a $100,000 house, you're talking $20,000 and an $80,000 mortgage. And then that income that property generates, you get to add to your income at least 75% of it or whatever the bank says. So now you've increased your income and you can qualify for more on the next one, maybe save that cash flow as the down payment for the next and go
Mhm.
do it again.
Yes.
I tell people if you have $200,000 cash that you are able to save, maybe you were saving for a down payment, you could buy 10 rental properties, and get that financing, have $1 million portfolio. That might be harder to qualify for in a high price market because you're having to qualify for the whole payment without the income. Does that
Got
make
it.
sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What kind of income could people expect if they do that scenario? They do 20% down, they've got an $80,000 mortgage. What kinds of cash flow would they be looking at?
So in a market like Florida or in parts of Atlanta, even Charlotte, where they are red hot. I mean, these areas, you just can't even imagine the number of people moving there every single day. There's wait lists, there's bidding wars. So prices have gone up. When prices go up, cash flow goes down because you're paying more for the property, and yet rents don't go up quite as quickly. They are
Hmm.
going up and not as quickly as maybe the home prices are. So we're seeing about a 6 to 8% return on those new homes.
Hmm.
And but on existing homes like that have been in foreclosure and have been fixed up, they're a little bit older, you can get a higher return on that. But when you consider that you're putting a down payment down, and let's say you're putting, I don't know, $30,000 down on a $150,000 property, and that property goes up in value of 5%, that you're talking about an increase in value of the $150,000 property, but you only put $30,000 down. So the return, like, people don't realize that it's the cash on cash return that matters, the cash you put
Yes.
into it versus the cash you're getting out of it. And when you include the appreciation on that, it's pretty phenomenal. I don't know any other investment that has returns like that. When you can double your money, very quickly because of the cash flow you're getting along with the appreciation, because you're getting appreciation on the whole thing, even though you only put money down on a portion of it.
Tiny little bit. That's exactly right. Do you feel, Kathy, with your construction projects and all of that stuff, that there's kind of a window of opportunity that might slip away from us? Or do you feel like this is something we can kind of count on into 2021 and, beyond? What do you feel about that?
I think it's a short window, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Prices are going up because material costs are going up, labor costs are going up, permit costs. I mean, just in the last 6 months, lumber costs went up 60% or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's just such limited supply. Builders have been raising prices. It's very all unexpected. And then you've got lower interest rates that
Mm-hmm.
allow more people to get into the game, so to speak. The payments are lower. So more, when you've got bidding wars, more people being able to afford these homes, bidding wars do one thing, they drive prices up. So I do believe it's a pretty short-lived window. With that said, probably next year there'll be a great opportunity in pre-foreclosures or foreclosures, as sadly, as some people aren't able to recover from the situation and aren't able to keep their home. There will be an uptick in foreclosure, but I want to really emphasize that it's not going to be anything like 2009, in my opinion. If you're kind of waiting for the market to get flooded with foreclosures like they were and get this crazy, amazing deal, I don't necessarily see that coming. I think there'll be more opportunity than there is today, but it's probably just the opportunity we need to have more inventory so that people can actually buy something, that there's actually something on the market. But I really don't think we're going to see prices go down. So it's shocking, because if you talked to me 6 months ago, I would have not been too sure about that.
Which we
But with
did talk to you 6 months ago.
yeah, and I'm not sure what I said at that time, but it was just kind of a lot of I don't know what's happening. But what we were shocked about, even 6 months ago, when we thought, okay, this is unprecedented. People are losing, millions of people are losing their jobs every week. They may not get them back. They might not. We don't know how long this thing's going to last. We don't know if we're getting a vaccine. We don't know if anyone wants the vaccine. It's just like, well, what is happening? You're not allowed to work, but you're also not getting a stimulus check. So it's, was confusing. But even with, and then of course, add the eviction moratorium and the foreclosure moratorium and all these laws that never existed before and change the rules of the game midway. You're like, wait, this is not what I bet on. It was very shocking. And yet at the same time, we called all 15 property managers from different cities that we work with. And we got them on a Zoom call like this and said, what are we going to do? People are losing their jobs. People are, there's an eviction moratorium, so they might not pay. What are we going to do? And all of the property managers came together and said, all right, well, let's really help the tenants out. This is not their fault that they're losing their job. They didn't do anything wrong. They just got fired. They got laid off, and by nothing that they did. Let's help them. And so these property managers got together and found, helped their tenants find the stimulus packages they need, apply for the PPP loans. They gave them a whole list of job applications, jobs that were available, and gave them payment plans, and just really reached out to help. And the landlords, the investors within our network were like, yes, we want to help the tenants. We ended up having a higher collection rate during that time of uncertainty than ever. And that was, again, another shocking thing. But it comes back to, and during this time, this is not the same recession we've seen in past recessions. It is just a weird,
backwards.
It's like nothing we've ever seen, right? So in this case, we know that the last recession was caused by housing and bad loans. That is not the case this time.
That's
right.
The
loans of the last 10 years have been good loans, solid loans, good borrowers with high credit scores and job history and down payments, and they've built equity because the values have gone up. I mean, there's nothing the same about it. They're locked into low payments. So it's just a very, very different deal than before. But also, we came into this with a limited inventory already. Then you have more people saying, I'm not even going to walk outside my house, let alone let someone in it. So then no one was moving and no one was selling. So it was just this like, nobody wanted to get kicked out of their home. The home moved to this new level of incredible importance where everything happens,
Yeah.
And it had to be a wonderful place. And people, were willing to do whatever it takes to make that payment. to pay their rent so they didn't get kicked out, or that they weren't in a situation where they'd have to pay it all in 3 months, like, okay, I don't have to pay it now, but I got to pay it all in 3 months. I mean, that would be difficult. So yeah, people have not wanted to move and are doing what they're having their extra funds or the stimulus money they got go to their paying their rent.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good to hear. And what I love is the encouragement by the property managers and also by your team to your members to really support the renters so that everybody can experience success together. People don't get kicked out. The landlords still get eventually paid, right? Everything, it's like a team effort. It takes a village, right? All of us have to be on the same team for this sort of collaboration to happen, for everybody to succeed. So I just love that.
Yeah, there's so much talk about landlords versus tenants and this sort of war between the two. And no, we got to work as a team, just like you said, and care about these tenants who are hopefully taking care of the properties, our assets, that you want. I mean, we even would send birthday cards and gifts.
Absolutely.
To our tenants. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Kathy, I know that you've created a special link with some special stuff for my ladies, and that is realwealth.com/blissful. So that's realwealth.com/blissful. And there will be all sorts of education. So why don't you actually tell our ladies what they will find there?
On there, we have a list of 15, I believe it's about 15 different cities. It changes, but under the Invest tab, you have to join. It's free to join. And once you do, it unlocks all this data on, like I said, the demographic shifts that we're seeing, where the job growth is, which markets are going to recover the quickest from COVID and this situation, where the areas are most landlord friendly, where if someone doesn't pay, you do have the right to evict them. All of that information is under the Invest tab with a list of the different cities and all the data there, plus a list of the referral groups, the turnkey companies on there we've been working with for 10 years in many cases, and have just rave reviews from our members. So that's just such a nice thing to know. Okay, I'm going to work with this team that has 25 people who rave about them, or 100 people, or whatever it is. We also have a ton of information there on asset protection and tax benefits of owning real estate, and how to get started, and financing tips. It's all free in webinar form under our resources tab. And under that tab, you'll also find the list of lenders to work with. You really want to work with a lender that understands investment property. So we have a list of those people. And again, they can, one application, and they can usually use that to get you qualified for up to 10 loans, with sometimes a little bit more paperwork needed, but they're really great, efficient lenders. So I also have my podcast, The Real Wealth Show, and Real Estate News for Investors. That one's a quick one that kind of just gives updates on real estate news. And then the Real Wealth Show is interviews with people who can share their success stories. And then finally, my book, Retire Rich with Rentals, is on Amazon. And on that, there's a really clear checklist of what you need to do to get started to build your, passive income rental portfolio.
Oh, so many great resources. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for letting me share it.
Yay! So everyone, definitely go check it out at realwealth.com/blissful. That's realwealth.com/blissful. And definitely use that link so you can get any of the special content that's on the site. So it's realwealth.com/blissful. Ladies, I am so excited about what we're going to be covering in the next portion of this show in Extra. So Kathy has shared all this amazing information so far. Thank you for that, Kathy. And now she's going to talk about how to actually get started in turnkey with her. So the step-by-step on how to do it. I know so many of you ladies have wanted to get into real estate, but you have done so much research, but you don't really know the steps to take to get started. So Kathy's going to be sharing that with us in Extra. So if you are subscribed to Extra, stay tuned. We've got more. If you are not subscribed to Extra, but would like to be, just go to realestateinvestingforwomenextra.com. You get the first 7 days for free, so you can download a ton of content, see if it's for you, and then you can stay subscribed or not, right? And, this Extra is going to be really action oriented. So this might actually be the exact time to try Extra. So definitely log in, get signed up at realestateinvestingforwomenextra.com. For those of you that are leaving us now, thank you so much for joining Kathy and I for this portion of the show. I so appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. And until then, remember, goals without action are just dreams. So get out there, take action, and create the life your heart deeply desires. I'll see you soon. Bye. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to download my favorite investing strategy, just go to blissfulinvestor.com. See you next time.